Let's dive into a scenario that almost sounds like satire. Imagine North Korea, the world's most secretive and isolated regime, potentially siding with the Philippines, a nation famous for its beaches and its close ties to the United States, in a dispute against China, which is often seen as North Korea's only real friend and patron on the global stage. It's a situation that seems ripped from the pages of a political thriller, or maybe even a dark comedy. It sounds absurd, right? But the world of international relations is rarely straightforward and almost never as logical as we might expect. Countries make decisions based on shifting interests, not on permanent friendships or simple alliances. The idea that countries are permanent best friends is a myth. In reality, alliances are built on convenience, shared interests, and sometimes even mutual suspicion. Loyalty is often just a temporary arrangement, and today's ally can easily become tomorrow's rival. North Korea, more than any other nation, is the ultimate wildcard in global politics. Unpredictable, self-serving, and fiercely independent. Its leadership has always prioritized survival and autonomy above all else, making it a country that's difficult to predict or control. To understand why this scenario isn't as crazy as it first appears, we need to look past the propaganda and dig into the real, messy, and often contradictory history that shapes North Korea's decisions. North Korea's relationship with China is far from a simple puppet master dynamic. While Beijing provides crucial support, Pyongyang has never been afraid to push back or assert its own interests, even when it means risking China's displeasure. In fact, Pyongyang has a long and complicated history of resisting outside control, especially from Beijing. This independent streak goes back decades, shaping every major decision North Korea makes on the world stage. This deep desire for independence is at the very heart of North Korea's foreign policy. It's what drives the regime to seek new opportunities and partners, even if those choices seem bizarre to outsiders. Sometimes that means looking for new partners, even unlikely ones like the Philippines. In a world where interests shift rapidly, yesterday's adversary can become today's strategic partner. The lines between friend and foe are blurrier than you think. In geopolitics, nothing is ever truly set in stone, and alliances can form in the most unexpected places. So let's peel back the layers and explore how this seemingly bizarre alliance could actually make sense in the unpredictable world of global politics. Sometimes the most unlikely friendships are the ones that change the game. We're often told that China and North Korea are as close as lips and teeth, inseparable allies, their bond supposedly forged in the fires of the Korean War. The image is one of unwavering solidarity, a partnership that has stood the test of time, with both countries fighting side by side against common enemies. But peel back the surface, and you'll find a relationship built more on mutual suspicion and necessity than on brotherly love or genuine trust. The reality is far more complicated than the slogan suggests. For China, North Korea is less a cherished friend and more a troublesome buffer state, too risky to abandon yet far too unpredictable to fully trust. The long shared border is both a strategic asset and a constant headache for Beijing. Beijing props up Pyongyang out of strategic necessity, not affection. Economic aid, fuel, and food shipments keep North Korea afloat, but every gesture is calculated, every handshake measured. North Korea, meanwhile, resents its dependence on China. Pyongyang fears being reduced to a vassal state, forever in Beijing's shadow, its sovereignty compromised by the very aid it receives. Every bit of aid from China comes with strings attached, and North Korea knows it all too well. Each crate of supplies is a reminder of the price of survival. So the lips and teeth analogy, it's more like two people handcuffed together, bound by circumstance but unable to stand each other, each wary of the other's next move. That's why North Korea is always searching for leverage, new friends, new pressure points, new ways to prove it's nobody's puppet. Pyongyang's foreign policy is a constant quest for autonomy. This simmering resentment drives Pyongyang to seek out unexpected alliances, reaching out to countries far beyond its traditional orbit, hoping to tip the balance in its favor. Their relationship is a constant balancing act, a high-stakes chess game where both sides are quietly plotting their next move, never fully revealing their intentions. That's why North Korea's search for new partners, even in the most unlikely places, is never off the table. Pyongyang is always looking for ways to escape Beijing's grip. The alliance is fragile, a partnership held together by necessity rather than trust, and both sides are acutely aware of just how easily it could fracture, which means surprises are always possible. In this uneasy alliance, the only constant is uncertainty. To truly understand North Korea, you have to understand Juche, their unique ideology of radical self-reliance and independence. Juche isn't just a word you see on propaganda posters, it's the very core of how North Korea sees itself and its place in the world. Juche is more than a slogan. It's the foundation of their national identity, shaping the way every citizen thinks about their country and its destiny. It's a philosophy that's taught in schools, celebrated in parades, and woven into every aspect of daily life. This ideology was born from Kim Il-sung's determination to avoid North Korea becoming a mere satellite of China or the Soviet Union. For him, Juche meant absolute independence, politically, economically, and militarily. It's a kind of institutionalized paranoia, trust no one, especially powerful neighbors who might try to control or influence you. This deep suspicion is built into the very fabric of the state. This mindset shapes every decision North Korea makes, especially when it comes to dealing with China, their most powerful neighbor and sometimes ally. Every time Beijing tries to exert pressure, whether through diplomacy, trade, or sanctions, it only strengthens Pyongyang's resolve to resist outside influence and assert its own path. That's why North Korea has poured enormous resources into developing nuclear weapons, even in the face of China's strong objections and international condemnation. For North Korea, nukes are the ultimate insurance policy, guaranteeing that no one, not even their closest allies, can dictate their future or threaten their survival. Juche isn't just talk, it's the driving force behind North Korea's most defiant and boldest moves on the world stage. It's what keeps the regime going, even when the odds seem impossible. If North Korea is willing to defy China over something as serious as nuclear weapons, it shows they're willing to make surprising alliances or take unexpected actions, all in the name of survival and independence. For them, independence is everything, no compromise. And that's exactly what makes North Korea's next move so unpredictable. Their fierce commitment to Juche means the world can never be sure what they'll do next. Here's the twist: North Korea and the Philippines actually have a history. Back in the 1970s and 80s, North Korea was reaching out, trying to build its own network of relationships separate from China and the USSR. Imelda Marcos, the Philippines' flamboyant First Lady, became an unlikely diplomatic channel. Secret meetings, trade proposals, and cultural exchanges quietly laid the groundwork for future ties. These contacts weren't about ideology, they were about leverage and independence. Formal diplomatic relations came later, but the foundation was set decades earlier. This wasn't China's doing, it was a direct bilateral effort. For North Korea, it proved they could make their own friends, even with a US ally. For the Philippines, it was a subtle way to show they had options beyond Washington. This history makes the idea of renewed cooperation far less far-fetched. Sometimes, the strangest alliances have the deepest roots. The myth that North Korea always obeys China? Completely false. The nuclear program is the clearest example. China begged Pyongyang to stop, but North Korea pressed ahead test after test. Each detonation was a message: we'll do what we want. This defiance infuriated Beijing and proved North Korea's commitment to Juche. But it's not just about nukes. North Korea often pursues its own diplomacy, talking to South Korea, Japan, or the US without China's blessing. Even Kim Jong-un's summits with Trump left China sidelined and uneasy. Economic disputes and border tensions have flared too. Pyongyang has even purged officials seen as too close to China. These are not the actions of a puppet, they're the moves of a fiercely independent regime. North Korea's willingness to say no to Beijing is a defining feature of its foreign policy, and it's why new, unexpected alignments are always possible. How does North Korea see the Philippines? Not as an enemy, but as a potential asset. Despite the Philippines' US ties, Pyongyang's foreign policy is pragmatic, not dogmatic. The Philippines is a sovereign ASEAN nation, exactly the kind of country North Korea wants in its diplomatic portfolio. Engaging with Manila helps Pyongyang break out of isolation and build new networks. Both countries know what it's like to navigate bigger powers. There's no direct conflict or historical baggage, just opportunity. For North Korea, the Philippines is a safe, neutral partner for transactional cooperation. Sometimes neutrality is the most valuable asset of all. Why would North Korea consider siding with the Philippines now? 3 words: South China Sea. The Philippines' dispute with China is a golden opportunity for Pyongyang. Supporting Manila, however subtly, lets North Korea remind Beijing not to take its loyalty for granted. Even a vague statement about respecting sovereignty would rattle China. It's a low-cost way to gain leverage and score diplomatic points. North Korea could present itself as a defender of sovereignty, winning goodwill in Southeast Asia. It's classic opportunism, using regional chaos to their advantage. With China distracted, Pyongyang has more room to maneuver. For North Korea, it's the perfect moment to stir the pot. What would North Korean support for the Philippines look like? Subtle, strategic, and self-serving. Expect statements from Pyongyang condemning violations of sovereignty. No need to name China, everyone gets the message. These words cost nothing but pack a diplomatic punch, forcing Beijing to respond. North Korea could send delegations to Manila, sign trade or cultural agreements, or publicly praise the Philippines' independent stance. In East Asian diplomacy, even small gestures are loaded with meaning. Behind the scenes, there's always the possibility of clandestine deals. Arms, expertise, or intelligence, all deniable. The goal isn't to tip the military balance, but to create leverage and independence from China. North Korea excels at maximizing impact with minimal risk. Every move is calculated for maximum disruption. With Pyongyang, even the long shots are in play. In this game, performance is everything. So, what does a North Korea-Philippines alignment mean for Asia? It scrambles the old playbook. The region isn't just a US bloc versus a China bloc anymore, smaller nations have agency too. For the US, it's both an opportunity and a headache. Less Chinese influence over Pyongyang, but more unpredictability. For China, it's a strategic setback and a public embarrassment. Beijing may have to rethink its approach to both the South China Sea and North Korea. Ultimately, this shows there are no permanent friends or enemies, only interests. Even the most isolated regimes can surprise us when survival is at stake. In geopolitics, expect the unexpected. Sometimes the strangest alliances make the most sense.